Jennifer Whitacre, and I am a Wellness Universe world changer and a contributing author to the Wellness Universe very first book, their guide to complete self-care, 25 tools for stress relief. And it's such an honor to be part of this book and the launch of this new series of books that's going to be so exciting as the next books unfold and what's coming in the future. And I'm so excited to be on the ground floor of this. My chapter is Choosing Resilience, using your biology to shift from distress to well-being. And I wrote this because I'm an empowerment strategist and I specialize in working with the subtle, lifelong effects of developmental and intergenerational trauma. And those effects can be really sneaky and they can hijack us. So as I take you through the chapter, you'll see in my experience how quickly I can get hijacked and how quickly we all can get hijacked by our emotions. So I'm going to jump in and start reading chapter 16, Choosing Resilience, Using Your Biology to Shift from Distress to Well-Being by Jennifer Whitacre, MA, Master of Arts, Empowerment Strategist and Trauma Specialist. My story. Sometimes breathing isn't an option. As I type FAC into the address bar, I feel my chest tighten, a slight throb in my temples, and my chest clamps down so tightly my lungs can't expand. Social media triggers my anxiety, and that's become a problem since I started working virtually. I have several work-related groups and pages to visit and messages to check. The physical symptoms of anxiety start to emerge before Facebook fully loads. Go straight to your business page, Jennifer, I mutter to myself inside my head. Do what you need to do, then move along. I follow my own instructions and I go straight to my business page and post. Then I breathe a gentle sigh of relief as I share relevant posts to my two groups. So far, so good, I think. And I even smile at myself inside my head for staying focused this long. The self-adulation, however, is short-lived. As I click the name of the next group from the left-hand column, my mind chatter kicks in and starts berating me. Fucking Facebook again. You know you're addicted and you need to give it up. Why don't you rip the Band-Aid off and get the withdrawal over with, lazy bitch? Over the years, I took the voice of the abusers into my head and I made them my own. Because the degradation and negativity were so much a part of my daily life, those messages didn't seem odd or unusual to me. That's just how people talk to each other. It wasn't limited to my family. This wasn't unusual behavior in the community where I grew up. And because of my upbringing, verbal abuse was normalized. I was pushing 30 when I started to realize this isn't everyone's normal. This realization coincided with my decision to move out of my hometown. A change of environment, a new circle of friends and neighbors, and a new work culture are what opened my eyes to a different, softer, and gentler approach. That was a hard time in my life, and looking back, I can understand why. I did my best to fit in with a new group of friends and colleagues, and ultimately, I didn't know how. I simply didn't have the tools I needed to manage my own emotions when stress and anxiety hijacked me. By the time I learned skills to become aware of and manage my dysfunctional patterns of thoughts and behavior, they were already a normalized part of myself. As I currently understand it, there's a good chance my inner abuser will never go away. The best I can do is notice it and work with it in the moment. Redirecting these thoughts in real time is what creates new neural pathways, and the more I'm able to catch and redirect myself, the stronger those neural pathways will grow, like a muscle. Now I find myself staring at my laptop and wondering, what was I doing? Why did I come here? I notice agitation welling up inside as the abuser continues. You did it again. You said you were going to focus and you couldn't do it, could you? No, I couldn't. And I understand why I couldn't. I understand the physiology of trauma, and I know my nervous system just hijacked me. And yet, that intellectual understanding isn't enough to override the felt sense of the nervous system when it gets triggered. Along with that felt sense comes the story I tell myself, the one that repeats like a broken record. You're not good enough. You're stupid. No one likes you. Only an idiot would keep doing this again and again. Then the negotiator speaks up. I want to be done with this feeling. I want to do my work without all the anxiety like everyone else does. Let's take steps to get there. This is the solution-focused, forward-thinking aspect of my mind. And upon hearing it, I breathe a little sigh of relief. It's not just this part of me that wants this. I want this too. I'm exhausted by the reminders of the past that live in my body. I notice my mind wanting to focus again, so I decide to keep going. I sustain that calmness and focus for 2 more groups I need to visit. Then I check my notifications, and it becomes nearly impossible to distinguish between what's work-related and what's personal. In a split second, I can feel the sinking feeling in my gut, combined with that panicky sensation in my chest that feels like I'm falling and I can't catch myself, and it takes my breath away as my chest clamps down, restricting the capacity of my lungs and leaving me with only shallow breath. My heart begins to race, and I feel heat emanating from my core, creating an irritating hot flash. My normal practice of meditating, box breathing, grounding, and centering is not accessible to me. The sensation is too big, and it overtook me too fast. The shame monster reared its ugly head. My sense of safety left my body, and I'm in a full-blown stress response. My body has shifted into autopilot, and I'm no longer in the driver's seat. It's an all too familiar robotic-like state I find myself in. I click notification after notification, commenting on articles, liking memes, and reading the daily rants and confessions of my friends. Despite knowing I have work to do, I keep going, unable to override the autopilot. The next notification I click takes me back to my business page, and I start to snap out of it. Once I catch myself, I pause long enough to reach for my cup of tea and take a drink. My cup of tea is a resource, a pleasant reminder. As I take a sip, I shift my attention to the inside. I notice the temperature of the liquid is warm, but it's not hot. I've been dissociated longer than I imagined. I follow the sensation as the cup touches my bottom lip. The liquid gently pours into my mouth, and I hold it there for a brief moment as I set the teacup back on its coaster. Then I swallow and allow my attention to follow the liquid as it descends my esophagus into my stomach. I follow the sensation with each drink of tea when I notice a spontaneous breath. Something shifted, and I feel more aware and alert. I take another moment to look around my office and notice all of the wonderful resources I have around me. To an outsider, my resources look like little toys and trinkets and rocks that clutter my space. To me, however, these resources are reminders of what brings me joy, peace, and calm, and clarity. I have a feather at my desk that I found on the ground. I think it might be a mourning dove feather. Feathers are gentle reminders of my love for nature, my bird feeder station, and the variety of birds that visit, as well as the other critters like skunks and squirrels that eat whatever morsels fall to the ground. As I gaze at that little feather, I'm briefly transported to one of my favorite places, my back porch, where I can visualize my backyard. I subtly and intentionally shift my focus, now noticing all of the sights, sounds, smells, tastes, and sensations that I can recall. I'm able to conjure images of blue jays, nuthatches, finches, eastern bluebirds, downy woodpeckers, and cardinals. It brings a smile to my face thinking about the crows and squirrels squabbling over peanuts. I feel like I'm there, seeing the vibrant green leaves, hearing the crows cawing, noticing the bright red feathers of the cardinal, and feeling the breeze. As my body starts to experience what my mind is seeing, I do another internal shift and notice the sensations my body is experiencing on the inside. As I stay with this visualization, I notice an expansive sensation in my chest and a softening in my neck and shoulders as the clamp on my chest eases its grip. Wow, I didn't even notice my neck and shoulders until they started to relax. A deeper breath accompanies that expansion and relaxation, creating a greater sense of calm throughout my body. I still can't manage a full belly breath, and that's okay. The deeper breath is a step in the right direction, and I notice my gratitude for taking as deep a breath as I can in the moment. The kindness I've directed at myself helps even more, and the next breath is slightly deeper with a long, softening exhale that allows me to sink into my seat. As I notice the chair under my butt, it comes to my awareness that I hadn't been noticing my lower body at all. The sensation of being grounded brings me to a pause as I notice the clamp wanting to tighten my chest again. I pause long enough to acknowledge the present threat of the clamp and also to notice what else is true. In addition to the clamp, I am still noticing the expansive and relaxing sensations as well as the chair under my butt. With all of this within my awareness simultaneously, I have a choice about what to pay attention to, and I choose the expansive sensation. I focus all of my attention on the expansiveness in my chest, and I notice it starts to grow as all of the other sensations start to dissipate. In my mind's eye, I picture the spotlight shining on the expansiveness while all of the other sensations that are still on stage fall into the shadows. They're not being ignored or pushed aside. They're simply not in the spotlight at the present moment. Where I focus my attention is what grows. To me, the sensations that are expansive, relaxing, and calming are like the flowers in my internal garden, while the sensations like a racing heart, shallow breathing, and a tight clamping chest are the weeds. I get to choose what grows bigger by being mindful of what I pay attention to on the inside, and this is empowering to me. The more I notice my own empowerment, the more the expansive and calming sensations grow. I've got this, I think to myself as I expand my awareness back into my office. I give myself a few moments to reorient to the room. Even though I didn't close my eyes, I was still transported somewhere else in my mind, and it's important I give myself a moment to land. I take in the sights, sounds, and smells around me, and the chair under my butt comes back into my awareness. I'm more grounded and embodied than I was before, without actually forcing myself to do a grounding or breathing technique to make it happen. The spontaneity of the internal shift is what makes this simple resiliency practice such a powerful one. There is no forcefulness, no leading, no agenda, and no sense of failure when it doesn't work the way it's, quote, supposed to. There's only noticing what's present and choosing from there, so it's impossible to go wrong. The tool. Choosing resilience. I learned the skills of the community resiliency model over a year ago, and they've changed my life for the better. I still get triggered, and that will never go away because I can't control what triggers me. I can control how I respond to those triggers, and the resiliency skills have proven effective because they're based in science and biology. We humans are hardwired to notice threat because it's part of our survival instinct. And when our autonomic functioning takes control, it continuously scans for danger. Seek and ye shall find. I was tired of scanning for danger, and a resiliency practice is how I consciously trained myself to seek pleasant sensations that I previously wasn't even aware of. Because this aspect of the self is part of our unconscious mind, it's nonverbal and doesn't respond to words. It responds to sensations, and the sensations that get the most attention create the strongest neural pathways. This is why noticing what else is true is vitally important. The loudest sensation is usually the most unpleasant one, and it can quickly overtake the mind when you pay too much attention to it, much like the weeds that strangle your garden. Pleasant emotions and sensations require nurturing, care, and attention, like slower growing flowers, fruits, vegetables, and bushes, if they are to grow and thrive. The more you consciously divert your attention more fully on the flowering, more pleasant and fruitful sensations, the more you nurture and fertilize their growth. You're not ignoring the weeds, you're tending to them as they arise and nurturing the plants or neural pathways of your choosing. Here are simple steps you can do now to begin laying a foundation for resiliency. Practice when you're feeling emotionally balanced to make these techniques more accessible when you're experiencing anxiety and overwhelm. Resourcing. A resource is anything that makes you feel calm, pleasant, strong, or resilient. A resource can be external, a person, place, or an animal. It can be internal, like a spiritual belief, a positive characteristic, a good memory, a spiritual guide, or imagined, a superhero, a character or setting from a book or movie, or anything you can envision. Resources provide comfort, joy, peace, or happiness, and it's important to have resources available to help build resilience. Discover resources by answering these simple questions. What or who gives you strength, peace, or joy in your life? What or who nurtures you? What or who uplifts you? Use as much sensory language as you can to describe your resources. How does your resource look, sound, feel, smell, and taste? Enlist as many senses as possible when describing your resource and notice what sensations and emotions you experience on the inside as you go through this exercise. You may notice pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral sensations as you do this. Simply notice all the sensations that come up and choose to focus your attention on the sensations that you consider to be neutral or pleasant. Avoid trying to make any unpleasantness go away. Simply notice it and shift your attention to what else is true. Simply notice it and shift your attention to what else is true, to the neutral or more pleasant places. The more resources you build, the more you condition yourself to seek resources. Remember, seek and ye shall find. Resourcing helps pave neural pathways that seek resources rather than threats. Help now strategies. When closing your eyes, focused breathing and grounding don't feel safe because the anxiety is too big, return to the basics. Help now strategies are accessible when there is too much stress, anxiety, and anger, or when you're feeling numb, fatigued, and dissociated from your body. These strategies can help bring more clarity and focus to your thinking mind. Some basic help now strategies include drink a glass of water, juice, or tea. This practice helps signal your digestive processes, which can ease the stress response. As you drink, notice what's happening on the inside. Are there any changes in what you're sensing, experiencing, or thinking? Pay attention to subtle shifts, not just big ones. Look around the room or space and notice anything that grabs your attention. Scan for colors, textures, materials, decorations, photos, pets, books, or anything that catches your eye. What about that caught your eye? Perhaps there is a fond memory of when you acquired that thing. As you consider what drew your attention, notice any shifts in the sensations you are experiencing on the inside. Count backward from 20. Count backward slowly, paying attention to any subtle shifts you experience on the inside with each number you count down. Touch a surface. Notice the texture: hard, soft, flexible, rigid, rough, squishy, smooth, sticky, etc. Pay attention to textures and surfaces that elicit neutral or more pleasant sensations. And walk around. Notice your feet making contact with the floor or ground. Which experience is more pleasant? Walking quicker, slower, or at your normal pace? And with all of these techniques, it's important to notice the sensations you experience on the inside. This can be challenging at first, and it gets easier the more you practice. The more you practice, the more proficient you become, and the more proficient you become, the more capacity you'll have to manage your anxiety and stress in the moment and on the go. Please remember that this is a powerful practice that has multiple important components. I've given you a few foundational tools you'll need for this journey, tools that will help you shift from distress to well-being. There are more layers and levels to this practice if you're interested in mastering it. Remember to visit my resource link so that you can explore those next steps. And I will put the link in the chat so you can visit my Wellness Universe profile page. And I'll also put a link to in the chat where you can find the book on Amazon. And I'm just going to look through the chat and see, does anybody have questions, comments, or anything that they'd like to ask or chat about before we wrap up today? I want to give everybody a chance to ask questions if you have them. And I don't see any questions. So let me put the links up here for you. So here's a link to my Wellness Universe page. And the second link I'm going to put in the chat is for if you want to purchase the book on Amazon. There's a link to the book on Amazon if you're interested. And let's see, and I'm still not seeing any questions. Oh, how can people connect with you? Anna, I put my link, just if you look, I think it's four messages down in the chat below yours. Then you'll see the link on where you can find me on the Wellness Universe. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you all for joining me today, and I hope you found some value, because this resiliency practice has truly been life-changing for me. It's a little challenging at first, kind of like riding a bicycle, a little wobbly at first, but once you take off with it, you really take off with it. And I, as of this year, and thanks to COVID, I had the time to become a certified instructor in the community resiliency model. So if any of you are interested in exploring this deeper, check out the links in the chat and connect with me. I'd love to hear from you. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Thank you.